Map the mechanism. Fear right arrow, busy trap right arrow, no ship. Let's map why you felt better organizing than shipping. It starts with imposter fear. When judgment feels close, your brain flags threat. The amygdala fires, sympathetic arousal rises, and the prefrontal cortex loses bandwidth. Under threat, attention narrows. You stop seeing gradients and only see two options: nail it or get nailed. That binary pressure makes every first move feel expensive, so your body hunts for the fastest relief. Now here's where most people mess up. They confuse relief with progress. Planning, researching, and tool tuning drop anxiety faster than shipping, so your brain learns, do more of that. That's relief learning, classic negative reinforcement. Removing discomfort strengthens the avoidance pattern. Avoidance or over-optimization wins because it buys an instant exhale. Shipping takes longer and feels riskier. So the loop forms. Fear spikes, you grab smart, busy work, anxiety dips, nothing ships, identity erodes, fear returns heavier. Over-optimization becomes a safety blanket. Frameworks, checklists, dashboards, color codes, each looks rational and responsible, but the real function is distance. As long as you're preparing, you're not exposing anything to judgment. Your nervous system loves that. The cost is invisible at first. The work stays in your head. The signal that matters, an external artifact, never arrives. No artifact means no evidence, and no evidence feeds the story, I'm not ready yet. Cognitive optics matter here. Ambiguity plus identity stakes equals stall and polish. When a task is fuzzy and your self-worth is tied to getting it right, you'll try to remove fuzziness before you move. That's why you build giant plans or read 20 tabs. It feels like diligence. Really, it's an attempt to manufacture certainty, so the first step won't sting. The paradox: certainty grows fastest after you ship a tiny piece, not before. Perfectionism slides in as camouflage. You tell yourself, I'm just raising the bar. But perfect is a moving target with infinite edits. It delays exposure and keeps threat at bay. Meanwhile, your calendar fills, your energy drains, and your output is still zero. Busyness without output confirms the fear you were trying to outrun. Research on perfectionism, e.g., Hewitt and Flett, Sirois, 2014, shows perfectionists procrastinate more, not less, because fear of falling short makes avoidance feel safer than starting. Identity erosion kicks in. See, I can't finish. That belief makes the next start even heavier. The loop tightens. Let me show you the but therefore pattern so you can hear the trap. I'll do more research so I don't look foolish. But research has no stop built in, therefore the first step never happens, therefore you don't get feedback, therefore you still feel unprepared, therefore you plan more. Same with tooling. If I set up the perfect system, I'll fly. But systems expand to fill your courage gap, therefore you polish dashboards, not drafts. The thing most people miss is signal to noise. Planning creates noise that feels like signal because it's detailed and neat. Signal is a shipped atom, one sentence to a doc, one subject line saved, one rectangle on the canvas, one commit pushed. Signal changes the outside world, even if by a millimeter. A clean test: could a stranger open, read, click, or see it? If yes, it's signal. If no, it's noise. That single millimeter collapses ambiguity and shrinks future threat, because you're not guessing anymore. You're reacting to something real. Now, why does shipping feel harder in the moment? Threat assigns a cost to exposure that planning doesn't pay. Your body is trying to protect you. The hack isn't to brute force through fear, it's to move the relief. If the fastest relief comes from motion instead of avoidance, your nervous system will pick motion. That's the key lever. Migrate relief from planning to micro-shipping. Here's the mental model that helps. Outcome vs outflow. Outcome is the finished product, big, slow, ambiguous. Outflow is the smallest unit that leaves your head, small, quick, concrete. If you measure outcome under threat, you hesitate. If you measure outflow, you move. Outflow accumulates into outcome without demanding bravery up front. That's why the MVM works. It converts a heavy outcome into a light outflow and pays you with immediate relief. In clinical terms, that's behavioral activation. Action drives mood and motivation, not the other way around. Let me make it concrete with micro-stories. A student sat on a presentation for a week, built a gorgeous outline, and still couldn't start slides. We picked one outflow, drop one ugly title slide. She did it in under a minute. Suddenly, the second slide wasn't theoretical, it was just next. Another client prepared his code base with tooling upgrades for 2 days. One 5-minute commit that fixed a warning did more to restore confidence than all the setup. The difference: evidence beat intention. Once you see the loop, you can interrupt any beat. Lower ambiguity by defining a tiny ship. Reduce threat by time-boxing 5 minutes. Prevent drift with the stop and rest. Protect identity by counting outflows, not hours. Each interruption weakens the relief learning that keeps you stuck. Stack 2 or 3 and the loop collapses quickly. Before we continue, you need to understand the boundary that makes this stick. Starts must stay safe. That means no adding goals mid-minute and always stopping at the ding at least once per session. Break that, and your nervous system tag starts as traps again. Keep it, and starts stay light. Once you nail that, everything else clicks. You'll still plan, you'll still research, you'll still use tools, just in service of outflow. We'll aim MVM at the 3 biggest busy traps next so you can flip relief on command and rebuild trust fast. Why busy feels smart but kills output? Planning feels rational, shipping feels risky. Under threat, your brain ranks certainty over progress. Plans are cert. You can see the boxes, the colors, the frameworks. Shipping is uncert. You might be judged. So smart busy wins the moment but loses the day. The feeling of control tricks you into thinking you moved the work. You didn't. You moved the anxiety. That's negative reinforcement again. Relief from anxiety rewards the behavior that produced the relief, even if it didn't produce results. Now here's the thing most people miss. Busy gives you fast dopamine without external evidence. Sorting tasks, labeling notes, tuning systems, each action produces a tiny "I'm on it" hit. That's false progress. Real progress is evidence in the world. A sentence saved, a subject line drafted, a commit pushed. Without an artifact, you're feeding your nervous system reassurance and starving your identity of proof. Scope creep camouflages itself as diligence. I'll just make the outline complete becomes, let me read 3 more sources becomes, maybe a new tool would help. Each hop looks reasonable in isolation. Together, they push the actual deliverable further away. Perfectionism hides fear in polished language. I owe this my best. Translation: I'm not willing to be seen starting small. The paradox is brutal. The longer you protect yourself from exposure, the scarier exposure gets. Signal to noise is your practical test. Signal changes the outside world, even slightly. Noise only rearranges the inside. If you can't point to something a stranger could open, read, click, or see, you produced noise. If you remember nothing else here, remember this: measure signal, not satisfaction. Satisfaction is sticky and unreliable under threat. Signal is concrete. Examples: a new line in a shared doc signal, a reorganized personal note title noise. One draft subject saved signal, a color-coded inbox label noise. Let me show you the shortcut nobody teaches. Swap outcome questions for outflow questions before you start. Instead of, what's the best way to do this? Ask, what's the smallest visible unit I can ship in 5 minutes? That single swap drops the weight by moving you out of evaluation and into execution. Once one atom exists, clarity rises and fear falls. You don't need the perfect path when the next step is reacting to something real. The game changer nobody talks about is decision friction. Every extra click, login, or vague task name adds tiny taxes your threatened brain doesn't want to pay. Busy offers instant relief with 0 taxes, so you default there. That's why we built the 5-minute boundary and the stop and rest. They remove hidden costs and promise a clean exit. Start stay safe, which makes them repeatable. Okay, so how do you flip the relief today? 3 moves. First, cap planning. Give planning a unit that ships. 1-page plan saved to the project folder is signal. Brainstorm for a while is noise. When the minute ends, you must have a file you could hand someone. No file, no plan, just thinking. Second, pre-commit the ship unit before you open tools. Say out loud, 5 minutes, 1 thesis sentence, or 5 minutes, 5 subject lines decisions. Language locks scope. Scope locks safety. Safety unlocks motion. Third, separate prep from polish. Prep creates doors, polish removes splinters. Under threat, you'll try to polish the door before you've built it. Don't. Ship a rough door, then choose whether to sand. Common mistakes to avoid: upgrading scope mid-minute, changing tools inside the timer, and rating the minute by how it felt. The minute counts if and only if a unit shipped. That keeps your metrics honest and your brain trained on evidence. Micro story: a designer kept organizing assets for a client deck. Hours gone, no slide shipped. We set a 5-minute unit, export one image and paste it into slide 1 with a placeholder caption. He did it. Suddenly slide 2 wasn't a project, it was a repeat. 2 more 5-minute units and he had a skeleton deck. Planning wasn't the problem, signal was. Mental model time, outcome vs outflow. Outcomes are lagging indicators. Outflows are leading indicators. If you measure outcomes when threat is high, you stall. If you measure outflows, you move and the outcome follows. So count shipped atoms, not prep hours. 5 atoms today beat 5 productive hours with nothing visible. Once you nail this, everything else clicks. Planning regains its place as a support activity, not a hiding place. Tools become amplifiers, not shields. And your brain learns the right lesson. Motion brings relief faster than avoidance. That single prediction change is how busy stops feeling smart and shipping starts feeling inevitable. The MVM protocol, anatomy and boundaries. Let's lock the protocol so it runs the same way every time. Consistency keeps start safe and makes your brain trust the process. Part 1, define the tiny ship. A tiny ship is one unit that leaves your head and lands somewhere external. It must be a thing you can point to afterward. One sentence in the doc, one subject line in drafts, one rectangle in Figma, one commit in Git, one checkbox marked on the live list. The test is simple. Could a stranger open, see, or click it? If yes, it's a ship. If not, it's prep. The thing most people miss is specificity at this step. Work on intro is fog. Write one ugly thesis line in the intro doc has edges. Clear edges lower threat. Part 2, the 5-minute timer. 5 minutes is short enough to dodge identity panic and long enough to move real atoms. You're using time as a boundary, not a dare. Set an external timer, phone, watch, kitchen timer, so you're not doing mental math. That timer becomes your trusted container. While it runs, you do only the pre-chosen unit. Don't change tools, don't expand scope, and don't track how you feel. You're buying progress with attention. The timer holds the door open. Your job is to walk through it. Keeping exposure brief reduces amygdala escalation and preserves prefrontal control. Part 3, stop and rest. At the ding, stop. Even if you're mid-sentence, even if you feel momentum. Stand up and take a 60-second pause. Exhale a bit longer than you inhale. Look across the room. This stop isn't moral theater. It's nervous system training. That longer exhale nudges parasympathetic activity so arousal drops. If every start stealthily morphs into a 40-minute grind, your body will learn, starts mean traps. One clean stop teaches, starts end cleanly. That trust cuts the cost of the next start by half. Optional Part 4, reassess. After the 60 seconds, ask, do I want one more 5-minute unit? Use want, not should. If yes, choose the next specific tiny ship and run another 5. If no, count the win and close. Choosing is the power. Drifting is the trap. You're proving you can start and stop on command, which restores agency and keeps your energy clean. Guardrails make this reliable. Guardrail 1, no adding goals mid-minute. The only unit that counts is the unit you named before the timer started. Guardrail 2, no silent upgrades. I'll just finish the section is an upgrade. If the thought pops up, note it and return to the unit. Guardrail 3, one tool per minute. Don't switch apps to feel busy. Guardrail 4, at least one full stop per session. If you always blow past the first ding, you're training the opposite lesson. Here's the script to run out loud every time. 5 minutes, 1 unit, stop, breathe, decide. Mouth to ear beats rumination. The script shrinks decisions and tells your body exactly what happens next. If you feel resistance, shorten the unit, not the rule. Keep the protocol intact and make the ship smaller. 1 clause, 1 file name, 1 field, 1 rectangle. Start stay safe when the edges stay tight. Why this works under pressure. Threat makes ambiguity feel expensive. The tiny ship removes ambiguity. Threat also tells you exposure is dangerous. The timer and stop make exposure brief and predictable. Together, they move relief from avoidance to motion. In behavioral terms, you're replacing avoidance-based negative reinforcement with action-based relief, behavioral activation. Your body learns, I can touch the work and be safe. Once that prediction updates, starting requires less courage. Let me show you exactly how to set it up in the wild. Before opening any app, state your unit. Write one ugly summary sentence. Start the timer, place hands on the keys, write only that sentence. Ding, stand, breathe out longer, ask want. If yes, pick the next unit, add 2 bullets. If no, close the file and mark the win. Whole cycle, 6 minutes. that's the shape. Common mistakes and quick fixes. Mistake, defining a unit that's actually 2 units. Outline, intro, and body is 2. Fix, force a single verb and a single target. Mistake, using the minute to decide the unit. Fix, decide before the timer. Mistake, judging the quality during the minute. Fix, ban evaluation words till after reassess. Mistake, just peeking at related tabs. Fix, full screen the task window during the 5. If you remember nothing else, remember this rule of thumb: the smaller the unit, the stronger the protocol. Small makes starts easy. Easy makes starts repeatable. Repeatable builds trust. Trust unlocks bigger blocks later without the crash. Once you nail the anatomy and boundaries, everything else we do plugs in cleanly. Research gets a ship. Drafting gets a ship. Setup gets a ship. And your day stops being a negotiation with fear and starts being a series of safe, visible moves you can stack by choice, not by pressure. Trap 1, the research rabbit hole. This one's sneaky because it wears a lab coat. Why it happens: ambiguity plus status stakes. When the question is fuzzy and the audience matters, your nervous system begs for certainty. Research provides instant relief without exposure. Each new tab feels like progress, but nothing leaves your head. You collect highlights, not artifacts. The backlog grows, your confidence shrinks. The thing most people miss is that input has no natural stop. Sources chain to more sources, and just one more is always rational. That's why you need a unit that ships, outflow, not just intake. Enter the tiny ship menu for research. Keep it boring and specific. Skim one abstract and capture one sentence takeaway. Pull one stat and paste the exact citation under it. Write one claim plus the source you'll use to support it. Translate one quote into a plain language summary. Let's run a 5-minute MVM in research. Say it out loud. 5 minutes, one abstract, one sentence. Start the timer. Open exactly one source you already queued or pick the top result and stop. Skim the abstract only, no scrolling the full PDF. Then write one sentence in your notes that starts with "this suggests" and add the link beneath it. Ding, stop, stand for 60 seconds, breathe out longer. Decide, do I want one more 5? If yes, choose a new unit. If no, mark the win. Now here's where most people mess up. They highlight paragraphs without creating an outflow artifact. Highlights are mental IOUs. Artifacts are evidence. Your one sentence is the artifact, the link is the receipt. Another common mistake: switching sources mid-minute because the first one wasn't perfect. That's scope creep disguised as rigor. Keep the unit. Make a note if the source is weak and move on at reassess. A quick friction fix: pre-stage a research ship note with 3 lines at the top. One sentence takeaway. Source URL. Where it plugs in, when the timer starts, you fill those 3 lines only. That template turns input into outflow without thinking. Let me show you the 3x MVM chain that beats binge research. Across an hour, you run 3 5-minute units with clean rests and context switches between. Unit 1, one abstract, one sentence. Rest. Unit 2, one stat with source pasted and a quick "why it matters" clause. Rest. Unit 3, one counterpoint sentence from a second source. In 18 minutes of total work time, you now have 3 artifacts you can drop straight into a draft. That outflow collapses ambiguity and tells you precisely what to research next, because the gaps are visible in your notes. Guardrails keep this clean. One source per unit. Abstracts or executive summaries first. Save full texts for later sprints. No citation format or mid-minute. Paste raw, fix later. No tab gardens. Full screen a single window during the 5. Micro story. A consultant had 22 tabs open for a market slide and was organizing highlights for 2 days. We switched to MVM, one Gartner abstract, one sentence link. Then a status to figure, one sentence link. Then one skeptical analyst quote, one sentence link. 15 minutes total work, 3 artifacts, and the slide practically built itself. The relief moved from collecting to shipping. Upgrade once the basics click. Try, claim first, research. Before you open anything, write one tentative claim in ugly language. Remote onboarding drops productivity 10-20% in month 1. Then your 5-minute unit is: find one credible source that supports, refutes, or bounds that claim and capture one sentence plus the link. You're not proving yourself right, you're anchoring the search to a ship. Finally, stop and rest matters even more in research because drift loves open loops. At the ding, close or hide the tab stack for 60 seconds. If you always peek for 1 second, your brain learns the door never closes. Respect the stop, protect the next start. If you remember nothing else for research, remember this: every unit ends with one sentence and one source. That's your signal. When signal stacks, drafts write themselves, and rabbit holes lose their teeth. Trap 2, perfectionist drafting. Drafting stalls for a simple reason. Your identity is fused to your words. If the line looks bad, you feel bad. So you delay exposure by planning, rearranging, and warming up the doc. Perfection beats presence. The cost? No sentence ships, so fear stays high and clarity stays low. The fix is to separate voice from verdict and move one ugly unit onto the page. Why this happens? Under threat, your brain narrows options to perfect or don't start. The amygdala pushes urgency. The prefrontal cortex loses flexibility. That binary makes the first line carry the weight of the whole piece. You'll try to outsmart the pain by polishing in your head, but thinking in advance is infinite. The thing most people miss is that language becomes easier only after words exist. Drafting is sculpting clay. No clay, no sculpture. Here's your tiny ship menu for drafting. Ugly thesis, one disposable summary of your main point. Placeholder intro, one line that simply announces the topic, not the tone. 3-bullet scaffold, 3 crude beats you'll fill later. 1 transition, a single bridge like so what, or here, why it matters. Now a 5-minute run you can copy. Say it out loud. 5 minutes, 1 ugly first line plus 2 bullets. Timer on, type the ugliest thesis you can tolerate. Make it obviously imperfect so your critic has nothing to chase. Example, this draft shows how tiny 5-minute ships beat perfect plans. Then add 2 crude bullets under it. Why busy kills output. How to run 1 MVM on a draft. Ding, stop, stand, breathe out longer. Ask, do I want one more 5? If yes, add the 3rd bullet or a placeholder intro. If no, close and count the ship. Now here's where most people mess up. They start editing inside the minute. You'll backspace, swap adjectives, tweak commas. That's an edit set, not a draft set. Editing inside the 5 reactivates judgment and inflates weight. Keep drafting dirty. If you must fix something, wrap it in brackets like fix later and move on. Another mistake is silently changing the goal. I'll just finish the opening. That's a scope upgrade. Return to the unit. 1 ugly line, 2 bullets. Try the bad then batch upgrade when you want more speed. Collect a pile of bad lines first, then batch edit later in a separate session. Draft set, stack 5 ugly thesis options. Ding. Rest. Edit set, choose the least bad and trim it for 60 seconds. Separating creation from correction protects momentum and keeps each mode light. A friction fix that saves minutes. Pre-stage a draft start block at the top of your doc. Ugly thesis. Bullets 1, 2, 3. Placeholder intro, this piece is about. When you open the file, your hands have a runway. You're not inventing the task, you're filling blanks. Clarity beats courage. Micro story, a founder sat on a fundraising update for 2 weeks, finalizing tone. We ran 1 5-minute MVM, ugly thesis. We grew 12% but churn spiked, here's the fix. 2 bullets, why churn? What we're doing now. Ding. She stopped, breathed, wanted 1 more, wrote a placeholder opener, quick update on growth and churn. 30 minutes later, after 2 more units, she had a skeleton she could refine in peace. The win wasn't eloquence, it was presence. That's behavioral activation. Action first, motivation and clarity second. Coach lines that disarm the critic. Possible beats perfect, 1 messy line. Right now, what's the next sentence? We stop at the ding, quality comes later. Say them out loud. Mouth to ear interrupts rumination and returns you to the page. Common pitfalls and fixes. Pitfall, chasing voice before you have content. Fix, ship structure first, thesis and bullets, then layer tone. Pitfall, opening past drafts for reference and falling into compare mode. Fix, full screen the new doc during the 5. Pitfall, aiming for a clever hook. Fix, placeholder intro now, hook in a later set. Want a pro move? Use scaffold then slot. First unit, 3 bullets only. Second, write 1 sentence under each bullet. Third, add 1 transition between bullets 1 and 2. You're building rails, then sliding cars into place. Rails reduce wobble, cars can be upgraded anytime. Remember, drafting is outflow. The only metric that counts is atoms on the page. One ugly thesis, 2 bullets, stop. That tiny ship lowers threat, raises clarity, and makes the next 5 easier. Keep it dirty. Keep it bounded. Then choose, don't drift. Trap 3, the setup spiral. This trap feels responsible, even noble. Tools promise control. Systems look like competence. So you reorganize your task manager, redesign your tags, rewrite your naming conventions, then realize the actual work is untouched. That's the setup spiral.